Thank you for coming to tonight's meeting, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start with an invocation from Pastor Stephanie Ballou from Crossway Church, and Councilmember Michael Klinghammer will lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Father, we thank you for this evening. We ask that you would bless these proceedings, and we ask that you would guide this evening and give wisdom through those that sit on the council and the decisions that are made. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Okay, now we'll move into public comments. We allow 3 speakers per topic, 3 pro, 3 con, and we allow 3 minutes per speaker. You can talk about anything you like, talk about county business, whatever you like. Can we have our first speaker, please? Anybody?
Good evening. My name is Don Ladwig. I'm a Claybrook homeowner as well as president of the subdivision. It's probably a little bit of an old topic. It's a Samelman Park proposition that's going on. Just wanted to bring up a few issues with regard to that. One thing I want to make sure you understand is I applaud the work that you as the county council and the department have done with the county parks. I think it's exemplary and they really are nice. Some of the comments I've heard by residents in the subdivision, some of them really don't want any of the soccer parks out there. One individual doesn't have the opportunity to put in any type of shrubbery in between there. He's got the pipeline going through. Other people in the subdivision don't really have those types of issues and concerns that those people do. Personally, for myself and my wife, this is a new thing that you're doing is talking about the soccer parks going in. Some of the other ones don't have that. Again, my wife and I don't have the passion that the other people saying no against those. As long as they're done properly, I think they could be an asset. One thing that we don't want to see is obviously a soccer complex, and that's what I'll address here in a minute. And I don't think the Parks Department does as well. One of the things I really wanted to make sure and talk about was back in July, there were some people from Whitmore that expressed some concern over the soccer fields, and their comment was to eliminate or move them to the other side. But there was no discussion as to what the other side meant, and so I don't really know how to take that. One of the things could be, well, do we move them to where the other 2 were proposed that adjoin to the Claybrook subdivision? And I can say there, if that was anybody's thoughts, that would not, there'd be, I'm going to say almost virtually everybody in our subdivision would not like that type of thing. I don't know that that's going on, and if it is, you understand the concerns of our subdivision residents. If it's not, then it's not an issue at all. That was all the comments that I had about that. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak about the park issue? Seeing no others, any other topic? Any other topic anybody like to come up and talk about?
I'm Len Myers. I live at number 3 Countryside Drive, which is in the Greenwood Acres subdivision. And I'm here about the rezoning of lot number 5 from single-family residence to, I guess now, a duplex is what they want. I am against that. The zoning is supposed to protect neighborhoods from this kind of willy-nilly development. The zoning laws that we have, I'm sure you wouldn't be doing this in Whitmore or someplace like that. It goes to what you were just discussing in your last meeting about upping the value of someone else's property to the detriment of everybody else's and manipulating the zoning laws. My thoughts are that you're supposed to be protecting that zoning, and I request that you do that. Thank you.
Is that 4265? Is that-
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else would like to speak on Bill 4265 on the rezoning of Westwood Drive?
Please excuse, I'm going to have to read some of this. My name is Frank Casella, and I'm the president of the Greenwood Acres Homeowners Association. Also tonight, the Westwood area homeowners are represented here, the adjoining 2 subdivisions from us. We represent approximately 150 voters here tonight. As such, I am here to oppose the zoning for Lot 5 of the Greenwood Acres subdivision from single-family to multifamily. I think it's R2, but I saw sometimes R3, but I believe it's R2. The lot is only 0.48 of an acre, which is less than a half of an acre. This would have to accommodate multiple parking for multiple families. Our concern is that you're placing a multifamily dwellings next to a single-family residence and next to a religious organization is the best way to, possibly a mosque, right next door to it. Our bylaws state that the homes in the subdivision have to be single-family and 1,200 square feet. That's what the bylaws are. It's recorded with the county. Normally, multifamily means possibility of renters and did not invest their money in the property and typically don't have the same pride of ownership as a single family who buys the property himself and pays for it. The person making the rezoning request does not reside in St. Charles County any longer. He lives in Farmington, Missouri. Mr. Elin did assure me after he had breakfast with Mike Dickus and the realtor that there would be probably a nice duplex on the property, although there's no contract that I know of to that. R2 zoning doesn't define the housing as a duplex, or as some has said on the board, the new term is villas now rather than just duplexes. St. Charles County Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously denied the request. This is in their field of expertise. Why does the Planning and Zoning Commission exist if their vote disregarded by the county council and votes for the zoning with a simple majority? Last, tonight is a possibility that one person's request who doesn't live or reside in this district may override the request of probably 150 people, citizens that pay taxes and live in the district that don't want it, that oppose it. However, I believe that this city council will do the right thing and not zone it as multifamily zoning. And as elected officials, we are the people you're supposed to be representing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody else like to speak on Bill 4265?
Yes, my name is Mike Dickus, and my wife owns that lot. I'm the trustee on her estate, and I don't agree with some of the things Mr. Casella said. First of all, we have owned that lot since 1998 and lived on it, and to my knowledge, there's never been a meeting of the people in Greenwood Acres, and so for an election of a president. The last president that I remember is Mr. George Murphy, which lived on lot 11, and he died around 15 years ago. So for him to say that he is speaking too far the whole subdivision, I think is erroneous. Secondly, he was saying about rental property. There's at least 2 homes that are leased on Greenwood Acres right now. And there is multi-family right across the street, which he owns. At one time, he had 2 apartments above his gunsmithing shop, and he's got a home, all in the same lot. Another thing that was addressed was traffic. Now, there is more traffic coming from his business and the homes across the street and his apartments than there could be from 2 villas. I mean, how many cars can people have? and they're coming and going at hours where they're going to work and coming home. So I don't see any real traffic problem there at all. And another one of the people that said something about the water issue. Well, the water issue is on 5145, which we sold. There's a ditch that borders the lot, 5 Westwood Acres. And I think that just about covers it. The other thing is, if we have to, we could go to court and get this zoned either commercial or multifamily, because in the 10 years that it was listed, the only response for both the 4.78 acres adjoining it and this lot was for commercial or multifamily. And not one person has come forward to build a house on it for an individual residence. So thank you, and that's all I have to say right now.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anybody who would like to speak against 4265? Sir, are you for 4265? Okay, you can come up. Yeah. We're at 2 and 2.
Yes, sir. My name is John Grodeke. I'm president of the Westward Manor Homeowners Association. We are the next subdivision to the south of Greenwood Acres. The trustees have met for the subdivision, and we do meet yearly. We do meet frequently, and we have annual meetings, so we are a functioning entity. And the trustees are in agreement with Greenwood Acres. We do not like to see this property rezoned. Everything from what used to be the Buffs camper place on our side of the road all the way down to Motherhead is all zoned residential, single family. It is single family residence, and we'd like to see it stay that way. So we would ask that you not approve this change in zoning.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Does everybody like to speak in favor of the rezoning? Okay.
One more comment. You say that it is all residential. That is not the fact. This property is bordered on 2 sides by commercial, plus all the way down Westwood, past Wolfram is commercial.
Okay, we'll get to the bill and we'll talk about it. We'll have some dialogue. Is there any other comments on any other issues out there? Yes, ma'am. Please come up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council of St. Charles. My name is Joy Moore Harder. I am the daughter of Velma Choate. I am her legal power of attorney, and I am here to represent her. After doing some research, it was stated on the Muslim Community Group's website. In 2009, the Muslim organization found a suitable location in unincorporated St. Charles County, which I am assuming is the property at 5145 adjacent to this half-acre lot on Westwood Drive. And it says, almost closing the deal, but hit a snag when county officials said the entrance was not wide enough to meet codes. The neighbor landowner did not give land to widen the entrance. Our question is, did they acquire land enough to meet the code since 2009? Number 2, does this half acre help to meet that upon purchase? Number 3, if the Planning and Zoning Committee did not approve a 4-family flat in August of 2005, why would the County Council approve a 2-family flat given the same circumstances set forth and established in the deed and dedication and restriction of Greenwood Acres Association? Also, I question the traffic congestion at the light for residential homeowners. This is a property that there is a beneficiary deed set up that will that both myself and my husband, Robert Harder, will inherit. It's a residential property. Greenwood Acres, as Frank had stated, is a single-family residence. This half-acre lot, which was originally part of the Greenwood Acres Association, and I ask that the City Council please take into consideration these facts. I don't know if this half-acre is actually needed, by the Muslim community group to as an entrance, since the other landowner, would not, I guess, concede and give the rights for an entrance? Is this my question is this half acre being rezoned to eventually be rezoned again in 6 months to a year? I mean, the development of a mosque is a commercial endeavor, as I understand it. So, my question is, what is the need for this half acre lot? Why is it so important? You're talking about, families, a lot of elderly people that live in, Greenwood Acres, and I'm here to represent my elderly mother. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. That pretty much concludes comments on Bill 4265. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on? Okay, that's fine, sir. We'll talk about it when we talk about the bill. Is there anybody else who'd like to talk about any other issues?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council, A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate and Public Resident. A couple things that I'd like to talk about are, I see on the agenda that we have a number of equipment purchases this evening. I appreciate the Director of Finance, Mr. Schnarr, for working to try to keep the money inside the county. I see a number of the bids are given to Pudman Ford, which is a sign of good news. It'd be kind of nice if some of these would be where they're being bought from, because I know Bobcat, it says Bobcat at St. Louis, but I believe there's a Bobcat in St. Charles County. So it'd be nice if we could keep the money right here at home. There's a couple other pieces of equipment that are outside of the state or over in Bridgeton, over in St. Charles or St. Louis County, but at least we're moving in the right direction. The table bill from last meeting, which I opposed, the $48,000 expenditure for pest control services and weed abatement at the 13 tower sites throughout the county. The bid is not accurate. According to the Department of Finance, it states that the bidder that they want to award the bid to, the ground guys, is of St. Charles. Well, after doing some homework and some information and looking into their bid, which are a public record, the ground guys of St. Charles list their address at 70 Tower Street in Moscow Mills, Missouri, 63362. So we're not even keeping the work here at home. I'm opposed to it because, as county council members stated at the last meeting, our Parks Department, our Facilities Department, our Road Department, and our Airport Department can take care of these in sectors across the county without any problems or additional expenditure to residents. So to pay $48,000 to a company in Lincoln County just doesn't make any sense. And I'd like to see that bid be done in-house with our Airport Department, our Parks Department, the Facilities Department, and other areas of government that can handle the work. Also, at last meeting, I asked the administration to give an update to county residents in reference to Circuit Court Case Number 1411-CC01208, Jim Pepper versus St. Charles County, the City of O'Fallon, the City of Lake St. Louis against the county, the City of St. Peters, and that's against St. Charles County and Rich Krismer. It just doesn't make sense that we're fighting what voters voted for to ban red light cameras. That we're spending taxpayer money on both sides. We're litigating this. It's costing taxpayers of upwards of $1 million, and I think we need to have some type of resolution, some type of exact figures of how much we're spending on this case, and it needs to be resolved because residents need to be first and foremost. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? All right, seeing none, moving on to the oral report from the county executive. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Scott, can you come up and bring your guest with you? Maybe introduce him for us.
Sure. Let me take this one. Thank you, sir. Good evening, Scott Drochnik, St. Charles County Workforce Development Department. I want to tell you that manufacturing is alive and well in our community, and it accounts for approximately 11% of our employment base. Helping to make that happen are folks like Troy Pullman and Component Bar Products out in O'Fallon on Highway 40, and especially with their Midwest Machine Tool Training Center, the MMTTC, a little bit of a mouthful. And they are getting ready to host and celebrate the second annual Manufacturing Day here in St. Charles County this Friday. Some 400-plus high school students are going to go through tours. The county executive will be there speaking. There'll be exhibits all day long, and it will be helping to let folks that are currently looking for employment or future employees of local schools that these kinds of opportunities exist. And with that in mind, Steve has a proclamation, and Troy has a few words to say.
Yeah, Scott, I was going to read it, but you covered everything that's in it. Troy, go ahead.
No, I have to agree. Scott did a really nice job there. But just to give you a quick background on who, or more importantly, what the Midwest Machine Tool Training Center is, in its simplest form, we're just a technology school. We're teaching training on machining, that type of thing, to become a machinist. And but what makes us really unique is our students get a chance to shadow right next door at my manufacturing company. So during this 32-hour week, they're studying, they're doing projects, but then they're also spending about 6 hours a week training and shadowing over on the job. So very early on, my students learn if they want to have a career or a trade in machining, and contrast that with so many other student or universities and colleges where you might go to school for 2 years or 4 years only to find out that, hey, that may not be the right thing you want to do. So we've been very successful, and I was telling Scott earlier today, it's very much a journey and not a destination. We're here to stay and look forward to being a part of the community. So, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get a picture here.
Oh, sure. Great. Thank you.
Steve, can we make any comments with regarding to that? Sure. I'd like to say thank you very much for what you're doing. I also know that what we as a community have to think about is trying to get kids to work today is next to impossible. And I mean, it's terrible, and it really is. And you try to get them to do physical labor or anything, and they'll work for you for 2 weeks and they quit. And half of them don't even come back and get their check. It's weird. But what we need to really think about as a community is kids need to stay with manufacturing. They need to know that there's a lot of other options, and carpentry work, pipe fitting work, plumbing work. We need to really focus on that because we're losing that. We are losing that. Oh, Steve, I'm sorry.
Okay, members of the council, I want to go ahead and do a quick presentation for you here. It's the same one that I did last week for the mayors and administrators, and I want to make sure if somebody mentioned it to you that you'd know what they were talking about. And what I called this basically is Lessons of Ferguson. We all know for the last 14 months now we've been talking about Ferguson, and my main concern, I think your main concern, is to make sure that in 5 or 10 or 15 or 25 years from now, the same thing doesn't happen in St. Charles County. I will simply say that I think we're well on the way to creating a situation where it won't happen, and here's why I'm least optimistic. Look at, and this is what got me started thinking about this. This map shows the housing in the region. The houses, the red is like houses, more than $500,000. The lowest category is the yellow, and the rest are in between. As you can see in St. Louis County, all the rich people live in one part of the county, and all the poor people live in another. We've all heard about the Del Mar divide in the city. I was curious whether that extended out into St. Louis County, and then even more important, did it extend out into St. Charles County? And are we headed towards a situation like they have in the city, and more so now even in the county, where all the poor people live in the north and all the and all the rich people live in the South. And the good news is that's not the case here. You can see that in the city of St. Louis, look at the market value. Basically, A is North City, 21,000 versus 102,000. In St. Louis County, 72,000 in the north versus 238 in the west. But even in St. Charles County, 144 to 181. So it's about 38,000. This is the mean single-family residence condominium. The mean is about $38,000 more. But start thinking about it, most of the homes in that southern part, that southwestern part, are larger. So I asked Scott Shipman to go ahead and figure out the square footage. And the value of property in northeast St. Charles County is only $1.50 less per square foot than the value in the southwest part of the county. Okay? Look at the square foot, you can see St. Louis County is on the way to becoming just like the city of St. Louis. And of course, I think we've seen some of the problems that creates when we look at what happened in Ferguson. This shows you where that line actually goes. You can see it pretty much bisects. There's an equal number of, a near equal number of homes on both sides of the line. And this is what's even more interesting. If you look at it by city, might think some cities are a little older and would be a whole lot cheaper. The values would be less. But you can see there's only about $5 difference from the top to the bottom when you look at those 6 large cities. Okay, and I think that's another important thing that we've got going for us. We've got 6 large cities, unlike St. Louis County, which has 91 municipalities. We got 6 large cities that are big enough to have professional zoning, okay? They're big enough to have a professional police department. And we also have school districts that are large enough to, again, have pockets of poverty, yes, but also areas of well-to-do people. And again, our advantage here is we don't have all of the poor people living in the same area. If you look at the free and reduced lunch per school district, you can see Zumwalt, Howell, Wentzville, all about the same. Orchard Farm, St. Charles are more, okay? I think that's primarily because of the age of the city, and there's some traditional low-income neighborhoods in the city and also down along the river. I will tell you that when I start looking at these numbers 20 years ago, St. Charles was twice. It was double Francis Howell then. So the number has grown. I'm not sure exactly how much of that is due to more poor people and how much it is due to the fact that the Obama administration changed the rules recently. It made it a lot easier. But the point I'm looking at here is you don't have this wide discrepancy like you do in St. Louis County. Another, we talked about school attendance. This is another indication, I think, that you might start beginning to have some problems in your area. Normandy, 65% of the kids are there 90% of the time. 2/3 of the kids are not there 90% of the time. If you look at the St. Charles County schools, you see they're all good. Francis Howell a little bit better than the rest, Orchard Farm, but they're all good attendance. Parents are doing their job of getting the kids to school. Even where there are schools, individual schools that might be down on attendance, they're not all in one district. They're not all in the Normandy district like in St. Louis. They're not all in one district. They're in different parts of every district. So if you look there, you've got 5 schools that are above 95%. You got 1 in each district. You've got, when you look at the schools below 90%, you got 1 in every district except Orchard Farm, and they only have 3 or 4 schools. So again, I think the key here is that no school district is overburdened, okay? No school district has to deal with a large percentage of the problem like you do in some areas in St. Louis. And I think this is even more important when it comes to law enforcement, okay? Look at the city of St. Louis, 85 crimes per 1,000. Look at Ferguson, 58, okay? St. Louis County, the unincorporated parts of St. Louis County are 22. Then look at St. Charles, and the important thing here is they're all between 12 and 28. Now, what does that mean? That means you don't have 1 or 2 police departments that have to deal with a big part of the problem. You have every police department dealing with a part of the problem, and I think that's a great advantage over St. Louis County. Property maintenance, we talked about that. I think you have a bill on tonight. Owner occupancy, again, you can see that there is a variation from city to city, but it's not that large. And again, St. Charles has the lowest number of owner occupied, but it has those traditional neighborhoods that have always been low income. It has a lot of students renting property from Lindenwood University who are renting property now, will probably own homes later. I think the important thing, again, is that we, unlike certain areas in St. Louis County, that we continue to maintain our neighborhoods. We did some research on North County, various cities. I think we found out that they all have maintenance departments now. Some are better than others, some aren't very good at all, but I think a lot of them got a late start. They already had deterioration in neighborhoods when they started getting tough on some of these things. So again, I think it's very important we keep our maintenance code strict, that we do everything we can to make sure that, you know, the sign goes out when you're crossing the bridge, you know, slum landlords not welcome. And that's the end of my report. If you have any questions, I can take them now, or I'm certainly available to discuss this with you later. I just think it's kind of the part of a discussion we need to have and kind of be aware of as we go forward.
Any questions, anybody? Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? And is, the 914 stays on the table, correct, Mr. Cronin? The one from 914-15?
I'd like to defer that question to Joanne and see if it's important that we pass that tonight.
We have, Joanne, we have to, the 914-15, that's separate than the current consent agenda, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's
the
separate.
914-15 you have set down below as items removed from the consent agenda.
So you have to untable it.
You'll have to untable.
Okay, so right now, do I have a motion on the current consent agenda?
Motion.
Motion to approve? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Seeing none. Moving on to bills for final passage.
Councilman, may I just, would you mind taking off the dispatch and alarm, the ground guys thing for discussion for a moment for me to?
Can I have a motion?
Motion to remove the,
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Joanne, go ahead.
Mike Buford did quite a bit of investigation into this over the last 2 weeks, and he traveled to each of the sites. You know, they're at every corner of the county and through the center, looked at the quality, and the numbers that he gave me is that he needs between March and the end of September each year, he's estimating that he would need about 27 hours a week of a guy, that he needs about $6,000 in equipment, and he thinks that the pest control, vermin control piece, which he can't do in-house, would cost him, and he had trouble getting rough numbers out of a couple of companies, but around $18,000 a year. So my suggestion is that we withdraw this and we take a shot at it for a year. And if it costs more, we've got a pretty good number from the outside, because I think the ground guys did, so if you looked at the internal of that, they did some very careful, what's the upfront, what's the monthly over the 17 months that they were bidding on. So we'll take a shot at it. If it costs us more than that, you'll see us back again. We'll put it back out for bid and we'll come back to you. But if you don't have a problem with this, we'll go ahead and withdraw it, and we'll take a shot at doing it in-house.
I think the other problem was, Joanne, though, that there was 6 or so, 7 people that
That didn't bid.
Yeah, we only had one bidder,
Right.
and that's problematic.
And I have, that is problematic, although I have to tell you, I think the reason we didn't get a lot of bids is when they found out that they're going from Schlersburg to Ameren, from Veterans Memorial Parkway all the way out to Wentzville and every place in between. It takes an entire day just to travel to each of these sites, even if you don't have any work to do there. And that's why Mike's estimate about his man hours per week was so important. You're looking at about 27 hours a week between traveling and being at the sites to do what needs to be done. And they're highly secure sites, so when the vermin guy comes to spray, the appropriate chemicals, we have to have somebody there. We can't just hand him the keys. So there is some significant manpower caught up in doing this, but we're gonna give it a shot for a year and we'll figure out where we are.
So will they just let it fall off the table or turn it down?
No, we'll send you a letter withdrawing it.
Withdraw it, okay.
Yeah.
So you're withdrawing, you don't want to do this now?
What I'm saying is, I hear what the councilman's saying. He thinks we can do it economically. Mike's doing it, and we're gonna take a shot at doing it.
Oh, okay, all right. Someone make a motion, please, to withdraw it. Mr. Cronin?
I'll make a motion to withdraw, but I have another question as well. Maybe down the road, guys that cut weeds don't particularly take care of rodents, and guys that take rodents
Right.
don't take weeds, so maybe down
If
the
we have
road,
to
if you
bid it,
don't
bid it
want to do it,
separately.
you could split it in two.
Yeah,
Okay?
we thought about that as well.
Yeah.
But also, Joanne, the highway department's in zones, they're already out there, so why wouldn't the highway department do the grass and the maintenance guys do the rodents? And
There really
bug
isn't a lot of grass. It's gravel on these. It's a perimeter fence and a bunch of gravel with wires and grounding underneath of the gravel. It's about keeping the weeds from growing up in the gravel at most of the places.
Okay. Motion?
Make a motion to withdraw.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion, that has been withdrawn. Moving on to bills for final passage, 4261.
Bill number 4261, an ordinance reversing the Board of Zoning Adjustments decision on application VAR 15-000005.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4261? What is it? Is this the barn? Which one was this? Anybody remember? There's a guy here.
Yeah, this is the guy who wants to do, I'm sorry.
He,
I don't
this,
know if he's here, this is the one that wants to do,
add on to make his barn a little bit larger. There was no opposition, really. Whose district is that? Who's my know?
Mike's.
Mike's? What's,
What's the story of this?
It was 4262 was mine.
I think 61 is also.
61 mine also?
61 is yours.
Okay.
It's one that actually,
was,
Wayne and I had a good conversation about this right before the meeting. Mr. Brazel, if it's all right, we could.
yeah, go
we can have
ahead. Just give us some insight, because
We had a really good conversation, and I think Wayne's got a good solution for it, so that we're not treating these individually. But when somebody owns 7 acres of ground, to have more accessory buildings than somebody that has 3 acres, I think is appropriate, and I think Wayne's got a solution for us.
That was a great segue, because basically what this constitutes, if you pass it, is you're granting a privilege to somebody that other people don't have the opportunity for unless they go through the same process and are successful. Our UDO provides that the BZA can grant area and non-use regulation variances. This is a use regulation. It describes how much of an accessory structure you can have on a particular size lot. So we would encourage you to uphold the BZA's decision to deny the variance. But having said that, I think what you need to look at is, if you find that the maximum size that we allow for accessory structures on this size of a lot too restrictive, then what we probably need to do is consider some adjustments to the UDO. Not too long ago, Joe Brazel sponsored a bill to change the accessory sizes within the agricultural district because it was kind of really generalized too. And what he ended up doing is creating a system whereby 1 to 3 acres, you have 1,500 square feet. For 3 to 4, you have 2,400 square feet. 4 to 5 acres, you can go up to 3,000, and so forth. It graduates up and makes some, it's kind of rational based upon the size of the property. Your floor area ratios are kind of maintaining the same ratio, and you should have the same character of development. Currently, our UDO for residential districts provide that 1 to 3 acres, you can have 1,500 square feet. And then the next jump is 3 to 10 acres, can have 2,400 square feet. And once you get beyond 10, it's unlimited. But there isn't the graduated steps that we have now. And so consequently, you can have almost a 10-acre parcel and only be permitted to have 2,400 square feet, the same as somebody that has 3 acres. And so if you find that our current regulations are too restrictive, I think the best course of action is to change the UDO as opposed to granting variances.
I concur. I think that makes the most sense. And to do that, we would vote down 4261, meaning we uphold the BZA's recommendation. Then we go back and talk about changing the amount of accessory structures that would be allowed and adjust it. And I think it should be adjusted, just like we already did with the agricultural zoning. So I think we should follow Wayne's advice and move in that direction.
I disagree on the fact that I agree with the UDO change. I disagree with the fact that this gentleman, in good faith, went through the process of plan zoning, which is $500. The BZA cost him $250. He followed the law that we laid out for him to go through this process. And if I remember correctly, there were no neighbors that were opposed to this. Is that right, Mike? Do you remember?
I don't remember any neighbors being opposed to it.
There are none, and it's 7 acres, which is a large piece of ground, and the gentleman's retired. He wants to put his historic cars in there and stuff, and nobody's bothered by it, so I don't see there's a problem at all. Now, if we want to change it later, that's fine, but I don't think it's fair to this gentleman. When he was in here, no one asked him any questions. We didn't even act like we were opposed, and he's not here because he thought it was going to just go through, which I thought it would too, so I wouldn't think that I think we should support it because he followed the process we told him to follow. Mr. Cronin.
I agree with you on this. This gentleman, by looking at the maps, he's got a very nice place. He's building a very nice barn. His neighbors aren't unhappy. And I disagree some with Wayne and Mike about being able to codify everything. And Wayne's heard me complain about this before. I don't think you can put every particular situation for building in a code. I live on 11 acres. I just was counting them up in my head. I have 8 buildings in there. I have a smokehouse, a milk house. It's an old historic farmstead. So, I mean, that's different. I hope Wayne don't come out there because some of those buildings were built in the 1800s, Wayne, okay? But anyway, I mean, every situation's different. This man's got a very nice place. You can tell by the pictures, it's upkept well. It's a nice looking barn. His neighbors are happy. It's a nice neighborhood. He went through the process. You know, I support letting him build a shed, okay?
I think he said with his adjoining property there, he's at 9.65 acres total. So if he's got less than another half acre added onto that, this isn't a question. I mean, he's right on the border of being able to build, according to our code now, anything he wants, because he would be right at 10 acres. And by what you just read, if you're above 10 acres, that restriction's gone. So he is 0.35 acres away from being able to do that. And since his neighbors don't have any problem with it, and since he's so close to it, I'm not opposed to this one.
Yeah, David.
I think as a part of that, this gentleman would have to consolidate some different lots. I don't know that that's been accomplished yet to get to that 9 acres.
Can't do it.
I think I'm in agreement with Mike and Wayne. I think we need to look at our zoning regulations as it relates to this matter, and, because I've had some issues with it anyway for some of the other properties in the county that people had problems adding, putting in an accessory structure based on the current ratios, and so I'm in agreement with, we need to stick with the planning, the Board of Adjustments, and I won't support the variance.
I think we're all getting to the same point, just a different way of getting there. I agree. He should be able to build this other accessory structure. If we change the rules, he won't even have to, he or anybody else won't have to come to ask for special permission to go above it. It'll just be included in what's allowed there. So I don't want to stop the guy from building it whatsoever. I want to make it easier for the next guy to do the same thing, because I think that the rules are too restrictive for when you have 7 acres of ground is a good chunk of ground. And you should be able to have these type of accessory structures.
So
no problem with that whatsoever.
Sorry, Mike, couldn't we do both then?
We can.
I mean, if we're all in agreement that, I'm sorry, Dave, I guess we're not all in agreement, but I mean, if we're agreeing that we're going to change this to where this would be okay, why don't we go ahead and give the guy his barn now, and if we're going to go ahead and change it anyway? I mean, so we're going to tell him no then, but we're going to change it in a month or two, and he's going to come back and have it then? That seems kind of silly to me.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a point of clarification too, on this points of interest that was handed out tonight. It says 4262. I think that's supposed to say 4161. Does this require a supermajority to pass?
4261 does require supermajority.
Okay, so there's an error on the handout, so you know.
So this does require 5?
Requires 5 to pass.
I'm just saying, Mike, that I don't think, I agree with you, it does need to be changed. That's why we changed in agriculture, but this guy is, he has a nice piece of property, he takes care of his stuff, and this is what we do. We make decisions on individual matters, and that's what we're doing tonight. And I don't know why we wouldn't support it. It's not fair to him, because nobody indicated to him to go through this process.
It still he ends up in exactly the same spot, is all I'm saying. And we don't have to then override what one of our own boards, by applying the same rules, has already done. I don't like overriding boards.
We do it all the time, though.
That doesn't make it right, though, Joe. We may, but just because we can doesn't mean we should.
My only point is the gentleman did follow procedure.
Sure he did.
He did what we asked him to do, okay? And to me, that carries a lot of weight.
Okay, so this will require 5 votes. Yes, Steve?
Yeah, since you need 5 votes already, my opinion doesn't really matter. But I guess when you said we decide these things all the time, well, you don't. There's a lot of them that stop right after Wayne's people talk to him and say, the ordinance doesn't allow you to do this. I mean, do you want them to say the ordinance doesn't allow you to do it, but you can go ask the council if they want to let you do it? And if you're a nice guy and do everything right, they're nice guys and they're probably going to give you what you want.
No, I agree. I think sometimes, though, we write ordinances and we don't look at every situation, so we afford the ability to go through the appeal process, go through the variance process, and that's the way our ordinances are written. So in this case, I think the council agrees that this was one issue that we did not, you can't, like we were talking earlier, you can't manage every situation, every crisis, because things change. And this is one of them. We're like, well, this guy should be able to build this barn, but we didn't foresee it when we wrote the ordinance. And there's a reason why we wrote the ordinance. But so in this case, it fits to what we do. And that's my opinion. So,
Mr. Chairman, could I ask one question? I think Dave Hammond interjected a really good point. If I understood it correctly, there are multiple parcels that are adding up to this 9.62 acres or whatever it is. And I'd like to ask Wayne to let you know, well, if that is true, then under Mr. Klinghammer's scenario, then maybe he wouldn't be allowed to build that same building if in fact he would have to combine all those parcels first.
Yeah, he said he has 7. We're only allowing, in this ordinance is always allowed 7 ordinances. So he didn't, what he said was at the 9.75, whatever, he had to put another parcel onto it if he was required to do so. But we're only, as for this goes, he's just claiming 7. But Mike is right. He does have another parcel or something that he can buy. Is that what he said?
Oh, he owns it.
Well, he owns it, but it's on.
Could we have Wayne clarify that, please?
Yeah, he told us why he couldn't combine them last week, 2 weeks ago.
If nothing else, it will give him direction in the future what to do if in fact this goes down to 2. His application was based upon a 5.7 acre lot. He has an adjoining parcel that he could add to it that would bring him up to that 9 point whatever it was.
6.5, right.
He has another 3 lots, one of which has a house on it, but I can't remember, I don't think they're contiguous. He can't make that work. He can't get over 10 with his current situation. The only one thing I want to make sure you realize before you decide whatever you want to decide is the UDO doesn't even allow the BZA to make this decision, and you're reviewing their actions and deciding whether they arrived at the proper conclusion or not. Anybody will always be able to
Wait a minute, I got to slow you down on that one. Why did it go to them if it wasn't their decision to make?
We allow anybody to apply for anything they want.
Well, this is the first time I heard it. We can't reverse their decision.
But it does not mean. Now, I will tell you that staff has been doing a lot more examination of our ordinance to try to unravel some issues and problems, and this is one of them that we found, is that we have probably been granting some use variances, and the UDO doesn't even really permit that to occur.
Mr. Counselor, if we override their decision on something they weren't supposed to be looking at anyway, what is the effect of that? Can the guy build his nice shed building or not?
Yes, if you're passing this in the form of an ordinance, which this would be, it would be an amendment to the ordinances of St. Charles County. It's not going to be codified for this one particular parcel, but it would override the BZA's determination, and he would be allowed to build the structure.
Okay, are we ready?
Sure.
Are we ready? Go ahead, Donna.
Bill 4261, an ordinance reversing the Board of Zoning Adjustments decision on application VAR 15-000005. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
No.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
It does the same thing, yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Okay, Bill 4261 is passed. Moving on to 4262.
Bill number 4262, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 15-000005.
Any questions or comments on 4262? Seeing none?
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 15-000005. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
4262 is passed. Move on to 4263.
Bill number 4263, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 15-000006.
Any questions or comments on 4263? Seeing none?
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 15-000006. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
4263 is passed. Move on to Bill 4264.
Bill number 4264, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1A Single Family Residential District to R1C Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 15-000007.
Any questions or comments on 4264? Seeing none?
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1A Single Family Residential District to R1C Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 15-000007. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Bill 4264 is passed. Move on to Bill 4265.
Bill number 4265, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1E Single Family Residential District to R3A Medium Density Residential District as per application RZ 15-000009.
Is there a substitute bill? Or is that?
There is a substitute
Are you
bill,
gonna-
but I don't know who has it.
You
Well-
should have it in your,
That's right. Do you have that?
Well, someone has to make a motion for
Well, I'll
it.
make a motion that we have a substitute bill for 4265 in its place.
Second.
All those in favor of substitute bill 4265, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, seeing none, we'll talk about that substitute bill. Mike?
So I understand this went through planning and zoning, and it didn't get through. So when the landowner's real estate agent reached out to me, I, of course, reached out to my planning and zoning guru, Dave Hammond, and said, so tell me about this, what's going on? So we looked at this map, and from what David said, that most of the folks on the P&Z didn't realize that this land is actually butted between R1 and C2. So on one side of the land is R1, but on the other side is Zone C2. And everything across the street is Zone C2 also. So when we started looking at this and saying, okay, what does the master plan say? Then this particular piece of property is more of a transitional piece of property that runs between a commercial zone and a residential zone. So the homeowner had he's had multiple offers to do multifamily in this, or the landowner has had multiple offers to do multifamily. The residents, as you can tell, do not want multifamily in there. So Dave and I were kind of talking to him about, okay, what could we do as a compromise? And the compromise that came out was attached villas. So you put, if you look at those drawings that were given to you, that should have been emailed to you, that show 2 attached villas. And as Frank had said earlier, that they require these homes to be 1,200 square feet. Well, both of these attached villas are 1,200 square feet with single-car garages. So you have a villa, single-car garage, villa, and they're both 1,200 square feet. Is that correct, Mike? That's correct. So that's the way that that sits. I would respectfully say to the lady in the back, this has nothing to do with the Muslim property and cutting through, because there's that house that sits there that's Zone C2, where you were talking about that road that was too narrow to get through there. I have no idea what was going on with that at the time. I wasn't sitting here, but this particular thing has nothing to do with that. That's a different issue. So I hear what you're saying, but that's not what we're discussing. We're discussing.
Why are you talking to the real estate agent? Talking to her like, is she here?
Hold on, guys.
Hang on.
Hold on. Whoa.
Hang on.
Hold on. If you got, we don't talk from the audience there, so if Mr. Elam wants to, well, I know he was just, but he was addressing.
Question to her.
Do you want to call after him?
Question to her.
I wasn't directing a question. I was putting a piece of information out. So,
You directed it right to her.
sir, sorry, I won't direct any more information to you from this point forward. How's that? Okay. So in having conversations about this land and trying to see, I called Wayne and I said, does this fit with our plan? Would you mind coming up for a second? So I had a conversation with Wayne about this to find out, does this fit the compromise? Does it fit with the way our master plan is laid out? And you said?
And I said, no, the request does not conform to the master plan. The master plan shows that the side of the street of the subject property would all be low-density residential. I went on further to indicate is that, but the plan is a guide. We should definitely use it as a guide, but ultimately we have to look on a case-by-case basis the context that a request is being made in. In this case, we have commercial zoning and non-residential uses, not only across the street from him, but more importantly, the piece of property adjoining and to the north of this property has been zoned C2. You might be able to argue that, no, the boundary line is going to be, Westwood Road, if all of the commercial was on the 94 side of the road.
Right.
But once you get that first parcel on the opposite side of the street, I think you've got to really start looking at the specifics of this situation, what the zoning is around, and whether or not it's reasonable to retain the current zoning on the subject property.
So in looking at that, there is if I understood you correctly, not to put words in your mouth, but if this landowner decided to bypass us and take this to court.
I can't predict what a court is going to do.
Right.
But one of the things the court is going to look at is what is the surrounding zoning, and they're going to look at, well, we might have been able to see a pattern had you kept it all on one side of the road, but now that you got this other piece zoned, I don't know if we can really say, no, that's your boundary line. We can't tell where your boundary line is, and I think they would give some consideration to whether or not the current zoning of the property is practical or reasonable, and the property could be developed under its current zoning because of the surrounding zoning and land use. You might end up with a situation where the court doesn't zone a piece of property, but they'll make a decision on how it could be used. I think it's reasonable to suspect that they might try to find a reasonable transitional use to step it down and reduce the intensity levels as you move away from that C2 piece on the north side of this subject property.
So by the zoning that's offered in the substitute bill, doesn't that step it down, or what?
It does.
What he was asking for a multifamily zoning, an R3. This is proposing, and the substitute bill proposes an R2, which would limit the person to 2 dwelling units on a parcel.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, question, this is for Dave. Obviously, the planning and zoning, when they looked at this, they were looking at R3, right?
Correct.
So now we have a substitute bill. So my guess is just your opinion, had this substitute bill been before the planning and zoning, would they have ruled the same way?
Well, I can't speak for the
Sure.
others, but what they proposed initially was a 2-story, 4-family building there. And I think what we're talking about, 2 attached villas or an R2 zoning actually does fit more into a transitional from a commercial into the single-family dwellings that are surrounding it to the rear.
Yes, Mr. Cronin.
From my 2 years on planning and zoning, my question would be, I understand why planning and zoning voted down the apartment building. I think that was appropriate. But planning and zoning really didn't give us any input on what 2 villa homes would be.
Right.
Okay? And I think, I understand these folks' concerns. I wouldn't want to be living in a residential neighborhood with next to an apartment building. But these two villas, they're basically 1,200 square foot villas, and they fit to the master plan, are darn close, because there's 2 residences per half acre, or almost a half acre, and the actual master plan is up to 4 homes per acre, so it's pretty close. And the other thing, I guess this would be a question for Mr. Dorman. I heard this lady's concerns about getting this property, a piece of the ground split off of it. I heard people's concern about having it be rezoned at a later date for a different purpose. Can we condition this rezoning on nothing but 2 1,200 square foot villas and no partitioning of the land?
Is that to Greg? Is that the question?
Yeah, that would be to Greg and Wayne, whoever's.
Yeah, I'm going to need to confer with Mr. Anthony and to find out if there's any administrative process that would allow subdividing after. I know that's not a part of the current proposal.
Is that the biggest concern, that it would be manipulated after the fact, but they can't do that, can they?
I don't know, we have to ask some folks.
Wayne would be able to tell us that.
The lot size is almost a half an acre. I believe the minimum lot size in the R2 district is 7,000 square feet. So a person could present a plat to subdivide it into multiple lots.
But
It would still have to be approved by the commission and the council. Well, it wouldn't have to be approved by the commission, but by the council.
Is this lot part of the subdivision?
Robert, is it part of the subdivision? He thinks it is. Now, if they have their own set of covenants or restrictions that put some restriction on the lot, that's, the county has not really intervened in those situations. It's between those property owners to sort that out.
But Robert, if that in fact is part of the subdivision and it's a deed restriction, is it a deed restriction? Do you know, is a covenants part of a deed restriction?
I don't know if we've really looked at the covenants, so I don't know what kind of form they're in. But usually those covenants are added at the time of platting, and usually I would assume get recorded on each lot.
Well, my point is, if it's a deed restriction, you can't do it anyway. I mean, if it's part of the, when you go, I'm just saying, but that's probably illegal. Greg, is that outside of our scope or what?
Enforcement of private covenants and restrictions is outside of the county's role, yes.
The owner still might not be able to do what he wants.
There was an email that came out, though, from someone that I saw that said that this wasn't subject, this .48 wasn't subject to those homeowners association rules.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Joe. Was not or was?
Was not. I saw an email to that effect, and it may have came from Mr. Dickus, I think. Okay.
I think that's an open question as to whether or not it is or not. But I know Frank had said that it needed to be 1,200 square feet. The home needed to be 1,200 square feet to fit within the subdivision rules that they had.
Well, I got a question for Mr. Casilla then.
And these are recorded.
Frank, come
covenants.
up here. Is that your name, Frank? Yes. Okay, come on up here, sir, for a minute. A quick question. Is the covenants part of your deed? Did you say it is, Wayne?
Yes, it's recorded with the county. It's the plat, the covenants, and there was an amendment from 1,000 square feet, which was the original one that was recorded with the county, to an amendment to 1,200 square feet that was recorded with the county.
Does it say single-family residence?
Single family, yes, sir.
That's part of your deed restriction? It's in your deed restriction? That's your covenants as part of your deed?
Yes, sir. So it is.
Well, he's talking about building 2 attached villas that are 1,200 square feet.
May I ask
They're
one
single
question?
family.
Yes, sir.
Who is building, I mean, I don't know about the attached villas. I don't see any plans or anything other than Mike, excuse me, Mr. Elam, other than Mike saying there's going to be attached villas there. I don't know, Mike is not building them. And
So what you're saying is if it were in fact attached villas, you don't have such a problem with that, you're just having heartburn over the fact they might switch the plan.
if I could, and now, my neighbors, I'm just responsible for them, and I am the president. If they're concerned with attached villas, apartments, or whatever they're called, villas, whatever they're called, we don't have any proof. We don't know if there's attached villas. There is nothing other than, he said, I never talked to Mike, but other than Mike saying, and this gentleman hasn't said it yet, he's not the construction guy. I don't see any plans, and I haven't been aboard in front of anybody. So right now, it has nothing to do with attached villas.
I understand.
I would imagine attached villa is a beautiful thing, but I don't know if it is. And once it's zoned, then we're at the mercy of whatever.
No, I understand, Mr.
So
Gazelle.
that's
Thank
all
you.
I wanted
Yeah.
to say.
That goes
But
back
it
to my
is,
question.
everything is recorded, everything is applied.
Hold on one second. Does anybody have a question for Mr. Casella?
I know, but that goes back to my question. Can we approve this with the condition that 2 attached villas of 1,200 square foot get built on the property? I'm seeing a no. No?
Yeah, your ability to put precise conditions on it is certainly less here than with a conditional use permit, for example. This is a flat-out rezoning. If you approve it, then the applicant would be entitled to do whatever they can under R2 two-family district. And so perhaps Mr. Anthony or Mr. Myers could give you a listing of everything that's allowable under that district. But they will be able to do anything permitted under that current ordinance.
So, Wayne who? Wayne or Robert?
Wayne or Robert, either one.
Thank you, Mr. Casella. I don't think we have any more questions for you.
I got one question for
Oh,
this gentleman.
okay, go ahead.
If this was your property, what would you do with it?
I would not sell it at $79,000 first, or $49,000 second. I would sell the property that I bought for $8,000 for $15,000. Somebody will buy it for a home, like the rest of them in the neighborhood. If you ask $49,000 for the property, less than a half acre, if you decided for 1 acre would come out to $105,000 or $110,000 per acre. If you watch that presentation that gentleman just said, the houses are not $300,000 houses. Nobody will buy it at that. We have several people that would buy it at $10,000, but not at $80,000 for less than a half acre. You'll never sell it. Or $50,000 for less than a half acre that you got it clear, nobody will ever buy it. That's all. And I know Mike is I've known him for a long time, but that's the honest to God truth.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can I make one comment?
Yes.
Here's my worry for the people who live in and around that area. If we don't limit this to an R2, and he decides to get an attorney and take this to court, what you don't want is a multifamily building being built. And in talking to a real estate attorney, and you heard what Wayne had to say, there's a better than average shot that you're going to lose that case. So,
Church next door, I'm sorry to interrupt, I should have never done it. That C2 is a church.
well, that building that's next to it used to be a daycare, and it's zoned that way, and I guarantee you, the fact that it's, Frank, the fact that it's zoned that way, in doing some research on this, and talking to a couple of attorneys and getting their opinion is he can win. All right, so I'm done.
All right, no, hold on, guys, no, we let everyone come up here and talk, we don't interject, this is the Robert's rules, this is what we follow. So, I guess, guys, so, Greg, if it's zoned, this is zoning does pass, he's only gonna be able to build 2 units on that piece of ground, is that what you're saying or not?
That's what I haven't read that zoning ordinance lately, so that's what I was saying Mr. Anthony or Mr. Myers would need to give you the list of what would be permissible under R2. Right.
Currently, it's 1 parcel, and the most he'd be able to put on it is 2 units. However, the parcel is large enough that you possibly could divide that up and get more than 1 lot.
But he would have to go through the plan and zoning again and go through the county council and have to go through the whole thing.
Right.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Anthony?
Well, one
Yes,
more.
I'm sorry. The only thing you can do in R2 is build R2. There's nothing, I just want to, and I believe that that's the case, but I want the crowd to know that the only thing you could do with this is build a duplex on it.
You're correct. It doesn't bring in uses from other districts. And the use list is relatively short, and I'll just quickly run through
Please.
it. Cemeteries, if you got 5 acres, that's out. Churches, golf courses, public parks, public buildings or facilities by a governmental agency, schools, railroad right-of-ways, sewage treatment plants, single-family, single-household dwellings, two-family, two-household dwellings, including duplexes and twin homes. There's all kinds of names for two-family. That's it.
1,200 square foot of residences?
No.
We do not have that
That's not
requirement.
our
No.
restriction, that's the sub-
That may be a covenant that they're going to have to be obliged to.
Right.
Okay, when the meeting started tonight, we were talking about something different than what we're talking about now. I want to make sure that the residents in the neighborhood know that all, the substitute bill that was introduced is only for an R2 zoning. Duplex is the only practical thing that can go there. So do we have the same concerns before that we did before, now that we had before the meeting started? Nod of the head or shake of the head? We're still concerned? Absolutely. Okay, all right.
John?
John, Mike,
I was
White?
going to ask, rather than voting on a rezoning, if it'd be better for Mr. Dickus to come forward with a different plan, a conditional use permit.
Again, I'm going to have to ask Mr. Anthony if that is something that would be covered under this type of use.
I think you'd have to change the ordinance to put that as a conditional use.
Okay, all right.
All right, let's go. Donna, you guys ready?
Ready?
Yeah.
Substitute Bill Number 4265, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1A Single Family Residential District to R2 Two Family Residential District as per application RZ 15-000009. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
I'm going to vote no. It doesn't matter at this point, but no. Okay, the bill has passed. Moving on to, where are we at? 4266.
4266. Substitute Bill Number 4266, an ordinance fixing and establishing the rate and levying of taxes for the General Revenue Fund and for various special funds of and for the County of St. Charles, Missouri for the year 2015.
Okay, is there a substitute bill required for this, Joanne?
We did that last time.
Oh, we did it last time?
Right. However, I believe there was supposed to be a public hearing on that this evening, and it was not added to the agenda, but it was posted in the paper.
It was posted.
It was in the legal newspaper, yes.
Were we supposed to have a public hearing, Joanne, or does it, at this point, what?
No, you were supposed to allow public comment on this tonight, so if you could call for public hearing now, if there's anybody here who's came to speak to that, since it was properly posted in the paper.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on Bill 4266, is there anybody out there who'd like to make any public comments on the tax levy? As a matter of fact, it's come down a little bit, right?
It is coming down a little.
It's coming down, it's not been raised, so if you want to complain about that, then, so, all right, we're good to go. All right, anything else? Donna?
An ordinance fixing and establishing the rate and levying of taxes for the General Revenue Fund and for various special funds of and for the County of St. Charles, Missouri for the year 2015. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
4266 is passed. Moving on to Bill 4267.
Bill number 4267, an ordinance renaming Quail Ridge Parkway, a portion of South Outer 40 and a portion of Dwello Road as Interstate Drive, and readdressing properties along Interstate Drive.
Question or comments on 4267? Seeing none?
An ordinance renaming Quail Ridge Parkway, a portion of South Outer 40 and a portion of Dwello Road as Interstate Drive, and readdressing properties along Interstate Drive. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
4267 is passed. Moving on to Bill 4268.
Bill number 4268, an ordinance authorizing acceptance of 3 juvenile justice program assistance grants from the Missouri Office of State Courts Administrator, OSCA, for 1, the Domestic Violence Counseling Program, 2, the Girls Empowered Together Program, GET, and 3, the Parents and Teens Together Program, PATT, for receipt of funds up to the total amount of $19,560, and further amending the 2015 budget adopted as Ordinance 14-109 by making a supplemental appropriation to the budget of the Family Court Services Division of the Circuit Court in that amount.
Any questions or comments on 4268? Seeing none?
An ordinance authorizing acceptance of 3 juvenile justice program assistance grants from the Missouri Office of State Courts Administrator, OSCA, for 1, the Domestic Violence Counseling Program, 2, the Girls Empowered Together Program, GET, and 3, the Parents and Teens Together Program, PATT, for receipt of funds up to the total amount of $19,560, and further amending the 2015 budget adopted as Ordinance 14-109 by making a supplemental appropriation to the budget of the Family Court Services Division of the Circuit Court in that amount. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Bill 4268 is passed. Move on to Bill 4269.
Bill number 4269, an ordinance amending the 2015 budget adopted by Ordinance 14-109 for positions within the St. Charles County Department of Community Health and the Environment.
Any questions or comments on 4269? Seeing none?
An ordinance amending the 2015 budget adopted by Ordinance 14-109 for positions within the St. Charles County Department of Community Health and the Environment. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Bill 4269 is passed. Move on to Bill 4270.
Bill number 4270, an ordinance amending section 115.710 to add a classification of CALIA manager and amending the 2015 budget adopted by Ordinance 14-109 to add 1 CALIA manager, pay grade 14, within the St. Charles County Police Department.
Any questions or comments?
I saw in today or yesterday's paper that this CALEA classification is required under the new state municipal court reform
In
within
St.
6
Louis
years.
County.
That doesn't apply to us either,
It does not affect us.
but it's something we need to do eventually, either way, for legal standards.
It is.
Right. That's all I got.
Okay, Donna.
An ordinance amending section 115.710 to add a classification of CALIA manager and amending the 2015 budget adopted by Ordinance 14-109 to add 1 CALIA manager, pay grade 14, within the St. Charles County Police Department. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Bill 4270 is passed. Move on to Bill 4271.
Bill number 4271, an ordinance amending section 500.010 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, adopting the building code of St. Charles County, amending section 500.090 OSCCMO, adopting the property maintenance code of St. Charles County, section 500.092 relating to abatement of violations of the property maintenance code, section 500.093 relating to orders to demolish or repair unsafe structures, section 405.420.d, a zoning provision of the Unified Development Ordinance relating to additional vehicle requirements, section 405.480.b, a zoning provision of the Unified Development Ordinance relating to signs not requiring permits, and sections 405.535.b and 405.590.e, zoning provisions of the Unified Development Ordinance relating to appeals from rezonings and abatements and from decisions of the Board of Zoning Adjustment respectively.
Any questions or comments on 4271? Seeing none?
An ordinance amending Section 500.010 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, adopting the Building Code of St. Charles County, amending Section 500.090 OSCCMO, adopting the Property Maintenance Code of St. Charles County, Section 500.092 relating to abatement of violations of the Property Maintenance Code, Section 500.093 relating to orders to demolish or repair unsafe structures, Section 405.420.d, a zoning provision of the Unified Development Ordinance relating to additional vehicle requirements, Section 405.480.b, a zoning provision of the Unified Development Ordinance relating to signs not requiring permits, and Sections 405.535.b and 405.590.e, zoning provisions of the Unified Development Ordinance relating to appeals from rezonings and abatements and from decisions of the Board of Zoning Adjustment respectively. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes?
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
4271 is passed. That concludes bills for final passage. Are there any table bills to be removed? Seeing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, are there any, hold on. Are there any announcements or comments from the council or administration? Okay, now, Mike.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.